Hey guys, what's going on? Recently discovered some Easter egg solves that uh, is going to be really important because we made a big goof, um, which is, I hate to laugh, but it's a really, really big goof. Now, the solves that I made recently have kind of unraveled everything that Treyarch has done in a good way because it's a storyline that is super important that we just weren't able to piece together. And really quickly, I tell people when I first started playing zombies in Call of Duty, it was Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, and I would play multiplayer. Then, when I got bored of multiplayer, after I prestiged a couple times, I would switch over to zombies and try it out. So I was never really into the storyline, and I kind of did really just a bus depot and town and did high rounds and buried diarized. I would just do high rounds. I wouldn't really get involved in too much of the Easter eggs and storyline and theories. But the reason I mention that is because I've been recently in the last year or two, since maybe halfway towards the end of Black Ops 3, I've been trying to go back and look at Easter eggs and the maps and see what maybe people have missed over the years. I did find a couple things, but this is a big one, if not maybe the biggest, because you got to realize that like Nova 6 115 is kind of like subplot, whereas this is the main huge overall plot that is in every single map. Every single map is based upon it, and even up into Black Ops 4, it's probably going to end with this storyline. So, turns out there is a famous quote on the Verrückt wall that said, and it's what this is. This is what it's based off of. It says, "Ted is a liar. Ted beats me up. Ted wishes me dead. Sylvia Plath descends into madness and misery." And it's basically Ted is her husband. And if you read here, she was born in 1932, 1963. She's a poet who ended up marrying Ted Hughes. Funny enough, Edward Ted Hughes actually didn't even realize that. That's pretty crazy. So her husband, and that's probably where we got Edward Richtofen from also. His nickname was Ted Hughes. His real name was Edward, which is blows my mind in itself. I never really even clicked on that, so you're actually figuring that out as I'm figuring it out. So that's probably why she hates Edward in some storyline. So, anyways, she was clinically depressed most of her life. She was treated multiple times with electroconvulsive therapy. If you go to the first map that is a real map, people don't realize that Nocturne Toten is a prototype. It's not really a storyline map. Some people know that, some people don't. It has nothing really to do with the storyline, just to kind of lay out how you play. You board up windows. I guess they ended up writing it into it eventually, but it originally was a just a prototype, so you know how to play it, open doors, buy doors, the box, stuff like that. Eventually, they somehow Blundell, I guess, was the one who wrote it into it. Something about the soldiers. I'm not too familiar with that, but anyways, so the Verrückt description: it's an electric shock therapy, chemically engineered beverages. Hordes of undead Nazis find the power to unite and send them back to their graves. So that's, like I said, there's Easter eggs in every single map that hints towards Sylvia Plath. And she died by suicide in 1963. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'll be honest, you can tell the way it's laid out now. I'm not an expert in editing videos and doing special effects and doing the stuff that a lot of people know how to do. But I did want to just really briefly go through her Wikipedia, point out some stuff that was hinted. Now, the other thing is a lot of the maps and her story in real life is based into the zombies map. The bell jar, if you go to the Der Riese loading screen, there's a bell jar on the loading screen, so that's one little Easter egg. Now, like I said, she married Ted Hughes, And Ted Hughes wrote the Iron Man, if you see here, um, which Dury's origins is based off of his book. And it's important in the storyline because it goes that when she committed suicide, she left two small children behind. He would read this book to them when she wasn't around. Now, in the Iron Man, they had to change the name because Marvel, they didn't want to confuse it with Marvel's The Iron Man, so they changed it. It says here to the Iron Giant, and of course, Darius the Giant, and Dorizen Drak plays into it because in the story, the Iron Giant slash Iron Man has to fight and protect Earth against an Iron Dragon. So that's why we went to Dorizen Drak. It's part of his storyline. So that's why they said, like, I guess at the end of Origins, Eddie's telling the story in some maps because it's Ted Hughes' book, whereas Samantha slash Sylvia has some maps, and those are from her poems, where like Sylvia wrote poems in real life. Ted wrote his book. So you'll see here the creature dubbed Space Bat Angel Dragon, which was also made from metal because I think they came maybe from the same type of solar system or planet where they're made out of metal or iron. So and there's a lot of other stuff I'm not going to touch on because it's going to drag this out. So really quickly, she married Ted Hughes. Ted is a liar. That is scribbled on the Verrückt walls in the kitchen, and it's, I guess, symbolizing Sylvia killed herself in the kitchen in real life. She stuck her head in the oven and quote-unquote gassed herself with carbon monoxide. Now, that's probably how we got this Nova 6 storyline. Like I said, literally everything has been based off her or her husband's book. Now, the scribbling on the wall, I guess maybe she went crazy before she decided to kill herself in the kitchen. Back on her Wikipedia, if you go to her death, she took antidepressants and they found her dead of carbon monoxide poisoning with her head in the oven, having sealed the wounds between her and her sleeping children with towels, tape, cloths. And there's a bedroom, I guess, in Verrückt where those same writings on the wall. Maybe they're saying she went crazy in the room before she went into the kitchen. She didn't harm the children, which I guess is good if there is anything. Now, basically what I'm getting at, if you go to her, and I probably don't have it here. Okay, so her dad, that was just to give you a backstory of who she was. Now, and this is where the big mess up comes into play by the zombies community. Otto Emil Plath was a scientist, German, just like Max is in the storyline. Now, where we messed up, he died on November 5th. What's November 5th? It is 115. So that's where the 115 comes into play in the storyline. As you know, 115 is kind of how the real life stuff gets thrown into the map. And like I said, everything is literally based off Sylvia and her husband. So 115, Jesse Snyder and Jimmy and whoever were so clever, and this is where the debate comes about, where like the way they made the maps back then, everything was an Easter egg, everything was significant, everything had was part of the storyline. Now, I'm gonna try and okay, so that's how we get 115, and that's the big mess up, is we all picked January 15th as 115 day. So now if we wanted to be true to the way Jesse Snyder and Jimmy and the original crew wanted it to be. We would celebrate it on November 5th, which is 11/5, and that was the hint. Now, if you go to her story, her poems, and Ariel was the name of the book, the title of the book of all her poems, and you might have seen it in the photo I just kind of did. One of her poems, and like I said, a lot of the poems and names and stuff, the Munich mannequins might be like Nuketown mannequins. The Hanging Man is, if you go back to Shinonima, the Hanging Man is the Hanging Man here. Now, you have to keep in mind, this was written in 1965. So, another part of her story slash poem, the stuff about the moon. I don't want to start throwing Medusa Chaos stuff in there because it's going to look like I'm stretching for stuff. But like I said, again, the main thing is her dad, and it's kind of like paying homage to her dad, who died on November 5th, 1940, and I guess Jesse and Jimmy decided, hey, 115, that's something in real life, let's use that. Now, the only thing I can think of is there is group 935, and there was group 696 something, I forget, so I wonder, I'll have to look for the dates for that to see where they fall in. Now, the reason is I included a lot of people I went to here, and if you type in hashtag 115 day, and I probably should have this ready. A lot of people, including myself, tweeted happy 115 day. Here's mine. Actually, that's how they got the loading screen for Alpha Omega, by the way. I guess I tweeted it on 115 day and they saw it and they liked it. But a lot of people, I kind of took some names just to see, people that, and it's funny, you get into the devs, start, jumping on the, and that's a whole psychology thing in its own, where like, okay, you following the masses, I guess it's called in psychology, where, okay, I'm just going to go along with it, everybody else is going along with it. That's a big debate. Kevin Sherwood went along with it also. But I'm sure if you message Jimmy or Jesse Snyder, they'll tell you that the original this is pretty cool. I just kind of saw that the original 115 came from the date her dad died, who was like a German scientist also, biology, and studied entomology, which I guess study of insects. That doesn't really fit into anything, not that I know of. But just kind of wanted to show you how this is starting to unravel, how the big solve is more about her. I might follow up with a couple other videos. I just don't want to make it too long and drawn out. But that's pretty much it for now. I'll see you guys later.